Okay, I want to go over some problems from the Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 quiz, just talking about the basics of those concepts. So we're going to start right in with dilations. So dilations are a transformation that can happen to a figure. I want to remind you that if I have an original and I do some kind of transformation to it, I create an image, and that image, let's say it's point I, the image point would have a little hash mark, so I prime. And so that is how I know the difference between what I originally had and what the image is going to be. So if I go from this small one here, triangle, and I'm going out to these bigger, this bigger triangle here, and the bigger triangle has the prime with it, that means that I have an enlargement because it is bigger. If it's bigger, it's an enlargement. If it's smaller, it's a reduction. So if the prime letters are in a smaller figure, it is a reduction. Okay. The K value, that scale factor, which is K, is going to be greater than 1 in an enlargement. It is going to be between 1 and 0 um, with a reduction. Okay, so it's smaller. All right, so that's some basic ideas. So this one is obviously, and then all dilations, the image is similar, and that's that big word, similar to the original. That means it has congruent angles and sides that are proportional. Okay, so that is important. So big ideas here. It says two figures, which of the following statements are true? The two figures are similar. There we go. Okay, we know it can't be this one because it says is not congruent to angle. The angles are congruent. That's part of the definition. Corresponding sides are congruent. No, they're not. They're proportional. They're proportional. So that's not it. GH is congruent to G prime H prime. Well, you could look at it and see that's not the case. GH is not congruent to that. They're proportional. So that's not it. Okay, so that's the answer there. All right, so the next, and they could look different ways. So the next type is creating, just understanding that they're proportional. Okay, so we have two rectangles. So the long side of rectangle 1 and the long side of rectangle 2, those would be called corresponding. They're the same, they're like the long side of each triangle, the long side of each rectangle. So in the same spot, just on the other figure. So I can set up a proportion that says I'm going to take the long side of rectangle 1 over the long side of rectangle 2. And that's going to be equal to the short side of rectangle 1 and the short side of rectangle 2. Okay, so it's short side of 1, short side of 2. So one thing you notice is that rectangle 1 values are all both on top, rectangle 2 values are both on bottom. And now we're just setting up a proportion. So the proportion, the cross products say that I can cross multiply. So 124 times 84 equals 217 times x. So that's where that other cross product is. Okay, so undo the times and divide. So I'm just simply going to multiply 124 times 84. Yes, you can use a calculator. 124 times 84 is, wow, big number. 10,416 divided by 217 equals x. So divided by 217, and I get 48. So x equals 48. And so that would be your answer. Be careful. Sometimes it asks for units, and so if you put in 48 and it yells at you, it's probably asking for units. Okay, there's a couple ways we can attack this proportion here. And so when you're looking at this, you could do the same method here, cross multiply and divide, but I did that above because I couldn't see a connection. Here I can look and say, oh, look, that's times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. So I can just multiply that by 4. And sometimes when we have that connection, it's a little bit easier, right? So 4 times 4 is 16. So you're just simply putting in 16. Now, what if you didn't see that? Then you're just cross multiplying and dividing. So you go 4 times 24. That 16, 8, 96 equals 6 times x, so 6x, divide by 6, divide by 6, x equals, and you can use your calculator, you're still going to get 16. Okay, so whatever's easier for you, you can look for the connection. Sometimes that's easier. If you can't see that connection, then you're using your calculator and setting up the proportion. Okay. All right, so now we jump into chapter 3 concepts. So the first thing we want to do is make sure, well, we recognize that this is 75, and then it's going to be asking for an angle, but we don't know what angle it's asking for. So we take this angle, and it says I'm going to start at F, go through T, and end in G. So I start in F, go through T, end in G. Oh, look, it's the one across from there. I know vertical angles are across from each other, and they are congruent. And so if they're congruent, then if this is 75, then that's 75, and that is your answer. Okay? So we jump down here, find the measure of the missing angle. So yeah, we got this straight line. We've got two angles that make it up. It is going to be 180 degrees. So this unknown angle, so x plus 68 is 180. You're simply subtracting. Just subtract 68. 180 minus 60 is 120, so 1 minus 12 more. Use a calculator to make sure you don't make silly mistakes. I don't care. The calculator's not going to tell you what to subtract from, so it's not like it's magic. Okay, so then that's the answer, 112. Find the measure of the missing angle, 112. Okay, so here's another one that looks like, well, we just learned about vertical angles. Is this a vertical angle? I don't know. So we're going to have to say we start at B, go through P, and then go to D. Start at B, go through P, go to D. Oh, no. That is not a vertical angle because they're next door neighbors. Okay, so if they're next door neighbors, then I know this whole thing is going to be 180. So that's another one. I'm just take 180, subtract 65. So 180 minus 60, so is 120 minus 5 more. Use a calculator if you can't do that quick mental math. I would use a calculator anyway because it's a test and you don't want to make a silly mistake. So that's going to be 115. Okay, so that is number 6. So slow it down if you have to. Just know that if I have this straight line here, and these two angles make up that straight angle, that straight line, then they're going to add to 180. They're supplementary. Okay. Find the measure of the missing angle. Oh, look, they give you a big clue right there. This is going to be a right angle. The two of them together, 35 plus this unknown angle, are going to equal 90 degrees. And so another word for that is complementary. It doesn't come out and say complementary, but it does give you that right angle. So I know I'm just looking to see what adds up to be 90. 90 minus 30 is 60, minus 5 more is 55. Okay, so your answer is going to be 55. Okay, so just recognizing straight angles add up to 180, right angles add up to 90. So just, taking the time. Okay, so now we have these parallel lines. How do I know they're parallel lines? Well, because they've got these little parallel things here. And so because of that, I know they're parallel lines, and I will be looking for some of those parallel line relationships. So remember that we talked about corresponding. We talked about so corresponding angles would be ones like 1 and 5. So angle 1 and 5, because they're both to the upper left of the vertex. And so in comparison to like the transversal and the parallel line, and that vertex there in the middle, that place of intersection, they're both upper right. Like 4 and 8, they're both lower. I keep saying upper right. So these are upper left. Angle 4 and 8 are lower right. And so, and there's more than that. Okay. There's more than that. So we've got angle, you get 58 degrees is corresponding to angle 6. They're both upper right. And then you've got angle 3 is corresponding to angle 7. They're both lower left. And so you get these corresponding angles. Now, what you should notice about those sets of corresponding angles, just to use this as an example, we have an acute angle basically, which is less than 90. And then we've got these obtuse angles that are greater than 90. And so you look at the obtuse angles, and so based on that, you've got either obtuse angles that are all going to be equal. So acute angles that are all going to be equal, and obtuse angles that are all going to be equal. Okay. And in addition to that, because these two angles, the obtuse and the acute, happen to be on a straight angle, they're going to be supplementary. So these two, 50 angle 1 plus angle 50, plus 58, not angle 58, is going to equal 180 degrees. So I could just take away 58 here and get 122. And that is going to be your other angle. That means that, and I'm just kind of teaching this. I haven't even looked to see what it's asking. Oh, it's angle 6. Okay. So that just means that every single angle on this is either going to be 58 or it's going to be 122. If it's an acute angle, it's going to be 58. If it's an obtuse angle, it's going to be 122. And so that's the general idea of this. Now, this specific of these types of problems. So this specific problem is asking for, and I'm going to get rid of some of this. Okay. So this specific one is asking for angle 6. Okay. So oops, we don't want to do that. So angle 6. So I have a problem. I'm having technical difficulties. So angle 6 and angle 58, they're corresponding. I already said that. So they're going to be congruent. So angle 6 is 58. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look down here. So it says find the measure of angle 6. Okay. Well, angle 6 is, here's angle 6. And look, it's here. So this is kind of the obtuse. Now, another type of problem that another type of angle are alternate interior angles. They're on the interior, so they're just kind of in between the parallel lines. So that's the interior, and they're alternate. One's on the left and one's on the right. So we got one on the left and one on the right, and that would make it alternate. Okay, so alternate interior angles, you notice, are the same size. They're both the obtuse. Okay, so if this one, if the one is 99, okay, then this one is also going to be 99. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So corresponding angles are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So we'd come over here and we'd say 99 is the answer. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at this next one. So it says measure of angle 6. Oh my gosh, those are vertical angles. Look at that. They're right across from each other. You don't even need to know the parallel. They're right across from each other. You should know by now vertical angles are congruent, so it's going to be 130. Next door neighbors are supplementary. Ones across from are congruent. What is the measure of the missing angle? So now we have triangles. Okay, the angles all add to 180. So it's basically 51 plus 52, that's 103. And then 180, subtract that. Okay, so 180 minus 100 is 80. minus 3 more that makes that 77. Okay, so those are pretty straightforward. This gets a little bit trickier, but you still know that they're equal to 180. Okay, so 2z minus 5 plus 90 plus 47 equals 180. That means 2z, 90 and 47 is 137 minus 5 is plus 132 equals 180. So I have to minus 132. So minus 130 is 50. So 48 equals 2z, divide by 2, divide by 2, z equals 24. I went through that quick. That is we have to be able to solve equations. And I know it's kind of, you got to move this over, do opposite. Sorry, that was my mouse. And then we got to get rid of that, do opposite, so divide. And so you get this feeling of that. I combined like terms. That was this step. So you kind of get this feeling of it. I've shown enough of it that you need to go back to some of the previous videos if you're still kind of getting stuck on that. So what you're going to notice over here is that you got 24 for z, but then it asks for DFE. And so you have to come up here and it's 2z minus 5. Well, we just said z is 24. So it's 2 times 24 minus 5 is going to give you DFE. That's 48 minus 5, so that's going to be 43. So you can come down here, 43. Okay? And so you're actually plugging it in and working out the value of that. Okay, slow that down a couple times if you need to watch it a couple times. All right, so determine, now this one is the remote angles. So you have 32. So you have 32 and you have x, and those two, so x plus y equals z. Z being the one right here on the exterior. Okay, so the exterior is equal to the two interior angles that are not adjacent, that aren't touching it. Okay, so if I plug those numbers in, then I've got 32 plus x equals 78. Oh, I'm just going to subtract 32, 6, 4. Oh, it's just 46. And it didn't say to do anything else with that, so that's what that would be. So you're just using some subtraction. Okay. Now, I realize now as I scroll up, oh, wait, it wasn't asking that, but it is. It says the value of x is 14? No. The value of x is 102? No. The value of x is 32? No. The value of x is 42? Yeah, that's it. So, so it's going to be D. I kind of jumped ahead. I didn't see those answer choices, but sometimes it's best just to solve it, and then it kind of weeds through some of those problems. Okay. All right. And then we're done. So there's 13 problems. Obviously there's going to be some different variations of that. Get More Math has more variations of that if you want to practice. And I would recommend that. And the test is going to be Friday with a follow-up next Friday. So that kind of helps you see what you know and then just focus and study next week on the things that you didn't know. All right.